time again for Talking Dogs with Ian Grant, owner of Vermont Dog Boarding and Behavior, VFW Drive Hyde Park. It's the show that delves into the training, socializing, behavior, nutrition, and wellness of your dog. And brought to you by Guy's Farm and Yard, with locations in Morrisville, Montpelier, Williston, and St. Albans. If it eats and grows, Guy's can feed it. And we're back with the trainer, Ian Grant, and this week, why most dogs are reactive on leash. So when you're talking about reactive, what do you mean by that?
If they see somebody, they could be very barky. They may lunge. They may some dogs will just stare intently but be very quiet. So even though they're reactive, it's a very quiet reactive.
Like you're waiting for the next thing to happen?
Yeah, it's just it's the loaded gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so this is kind of how we're defining reactive. Really what this stems down to is how we're walking our dog on leash, meaning, all right, is your dog allowed to be out in front of you and constantly sniffing the ground? And the funny part is I've learned over time that when I ask people how their dog walks on leash, I have to actually be very specific. Where is your dog while you're walking it on leash? Is it next to you, on your side? Is it behind you? Or is he or she out in front of you? Because I've had people tell me that their dog walks very nicely on leash, but that nose is pasted to the ground, and it's scanning back and forth. And to them, that's just a great walk.
But that's not a nice walk in your opinion.
Right. And now, again, I always preface this by saying if you have the happy-go-lucky dog and nothing's wrong, then you can get away with all this stuff. Right. But this goes back to their decision-making. So if that nose is glued to the ground, if it's constantly scanning back and forth, left to right, this is actually a really, really, really mild version of hunting and tracking. They're trying to find a scent. They're trying to trigger something that they can track, that they can follow. The funny part is that when it gets to this point in the dog's brain and that they are tracking and then they see something, it's like, I've found it. That's what I'm looking for, and that's usually when the explosion happens of the barking or the lunging.
Yeah.
The other part of this, too, is that most times, so let's say you and I are walking, on the sidewalk and we see each other up ahead. Ideally, it's best for us to each put our dogs on our right-hand side because when we're walking, the person passes on our left, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Most oftentimes what I find is that when dogs are reactive, they're actually being walked in the middle of the sidewalk. So that would be you and then Tika and then me. So Tika would be in between you and I as we pass.
And where's your dog?
Well, mine would hopefully be on the right, but if mine's on the left, now we're really putting dogs, we're setting them up to fail.
Exactly, to lunge at each other or worse.
Absolutely. So oftentimes when we're walking in those situations, if our dog is on our left, we are exposing them. We're not giving them a sense of protection to let them know we have their back. And so oftentimes, and because they're on leash, they can't use the flight mechanism in their brain that says, get me out of here. So it's the fight mechanism that kicks in, and they go, okay, well, this thing's coming at me, and I've been searching for something, and there it is, and then, everything breaks loose.
So you got to prepare as you're walking and looking down the street, so you got to have a plan. And, of course, if you don't know the other dog owner, you don't know what that's going to be.
Exactly. And I've had situations where I've worked with these kinds of dogs, and I teach the owner to just walk the dog on your right, especially if you're on sidewalks a lot. And I teach the client how to walk the dog, keep the dog on the right. And I've had dogs do a complete 180 and be able to pass other dogs no problem because they don't feel exposed. They feel like they're getting that direction, a sense of protection. The human has things under control, and then they can just go from there. So that's not going to be the case with every dog, but when you create a structured walk, you're going to create a different state of mind in the dog and hopefully set them up for success instead of failure.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of funny. When I was on vacation, my wife and I had Tika, and this guy came up to us with the dog, and he was kind of a wild dog. Can my dog meet your dog? And didn't even ask us, didn't even prepare it, and we immediately said, no, and of course it makes us look like, that we're mean or something,
yes.
But we're looking at the whole picture here that if your dog's out of control, I don't want them coming next to Tika.
Right, and that's the thing is for Tika, I mean, let's say you did that once a week that you wouldn't stick up for her, that's going to change her behaviors a lot over time.
Yeah.
But by you really sticking up for her and
protecting
advocating
her,
that gives her a feeling of like, wow, Mom and dad know exactly what I need, and they're going to provide that space for me. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and because you do have dog owners that just are clueless sometimes about they've got a dog, and you kind of wonder, why do they have a dog if they don't have it under control and practice these bad behaviors?
It's interesting that you say that too, because a lot of times the dog owners that have those types of dogs don't have a full grasp of yourself, like with Tika. They probably haven't come across that yet. You never want somebody to come across a situation like that, but sticking up for Tika in that situation is priceless for her over time. It's just you can't put a value to that. But well done.
Right, and every dog walk is a training session to an extent as well. So
it is.
We have to remember that. Back with our question from the doggy bag in just a moment here on Talking Dogs. Back with Talking Dogs with Ian Grant from Vermont Dog Boarding and Behavior, VFW Drive Hyde Park. To listen to some of our past Talking Dogs programs or other podcasts that Ian does throughout the course of his working week, just go to VermontDogBoardingandBehavior.com and click on the podcasts, and you will find them all. Our question this morning, Ian, is we just got a puppy and want to schedule play dates with other puppies. What kinds of rules should we set for that play date? But, of course, another question is when is a good time to start them, too, I suppose, right?
Once you get clearance from the vet, because I know they want to make sure everybody's had their shots and vaccinations and that kind of thing. But I'm going to probably throw you a little bit of a curveball to the answer to this question here. I'm not a big fan of puppies having play dates with other puppies.
Really?
Because they don't learn anything.
Yeah. If anything, they'll learn the bad behavior of the other one.
Right. I'd much rather you take some time and try to find a 3, 4, 5-year-old dog that is balanced, it has zero history of aggression, and hang out with that dog. Because 2 puppies aren't going to know when it's time to settle down and lie down and rest.
Right.
They're just going to go, go, go. They don't have that self-regulation.
That's their nature.
That's who they are. Chances are it might be a little too rough, too. And then you don't want them learning that this is the way that all dogs play. That older dog is probably going to teach rules and boundaries and do it the right way. But also when that adult dog has had enough, it's going to lie down and relax. And I want that puppy to learn that that's an option for them too, that they're going to set that example, that adult will set the example like, now we rest. We played, and then now we rest. And then now's when we go get a drink of water, and now's when we go lay in the shade. And
so the older dog is just taking the puppy under its paw, so to speak.
Yes, exactly, because there's so much life experience there that that's invaluable. It really is when it comes down to it. You'll do all the training. You'll do the play, the obedience, do our dog owner stuff. But I think you're much better off finding an older dog and hanging out with that dog as much as possible. I think that's going to create a well-rounded puppy for you in the future.
Makes perfect sense, actually, when you think about it. So it's funny how dog owners, they treat puppies and getting together like kids.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got 2 little kids getting together, that's one thing. But dogs, a little bit different.
Yeah, and we both raise kids, but sometimes having a 5-year-old and another 5-year-old and a lot of toys around is not the best thing either.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you have a question for Ian, you can email him directly to info@vermontdogboardingandbehavior.com. Next week, another countdown show. Boy, we haven't had one for a while now. The top 3 mistakes dog owners make. Now, a few weeks ago, it's the top 3 reasons dog owners are successful. Now we're bringing them back to earth.
Yes, and you would think it would be the exact opposite of the 3 reasons they're successful, but I want to kind of break it down a little bit more. So we'll make our another top 3 list here.
On Talking Dogs with Ian Grant, brought to you by Guy's Farm and Yard, with locations in Morrisville, Montpelier, Williston, and St. Albans. If it eats and grows, Guys can feed it. And for the trainer Ian Grant, I'm Roland LaJoy, and we are Talking Dogs.